hopefully when we look back in like 10 years time, this was the starting point. And we will not be the only company in the world for sure. I mean, there are a lot of people that are trying and coming. Some have a prototype that's working, but it's different to have a prototype to serial production. And I think it's good to get the competition. And that will showcase that more people believe that this is the next step.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gothberg. Hello, Shipping Podcast listeners, and welcome to episode 209. As you know by now, I'm a technical nerd. So many cool things are happening on the water right now, and I cannot get enough of the latest and most unbelievable things. This episode focuses on electric hydrofoiling vessels, that is passenger boats with only one crew, a flight deck, and fuel reduction by 80 to 90%. It sounds too good to be true. That reduction of fuel is probably what most ship owners can only dream about. I have been following Candela via social media for a while, and finally I could pin Erik Eklund to an interview. Erik is the Chief Commercial Officer at Candela, and we did this interview in person when Erik was traveling to Gothenburg. I hope you will enjoy our conversation. Welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Erik Eklund, naval architect as a background. A boater since born. We have a family house in the archipelagos. I've been in both sail yachting and motorboating and dinghies for the whole of my life. And the dream was to be a naval architect to design ships.
So you studied to become a naval architect?
Absolutely. That was the goal from very, very early stage. It was actually a stage in my... I joined my grandparents sailing through a large dock where a ship was up, and I asked why the ship have these difficult shapes below the water line. And the answer I got from my grandfather, I didn't really believe it, and I realized that he actually didn't know it. He was a lawyer. So from that point, maybe I was like 8 or 9 years old, I thought I need to understand why do ships have these kind of strange shapes.
Or you learned that lawyers can lie.
Yeah. With the emphasis. So it was great. But I think that was actually the starting point to my eager to learn more about how to design ships.
So you went to the university?
Yes, I did a break after normal school before I entered to Royal Institute of Technology. So I was working for a chemical industry actually, doing the mechanical design. And during my study, I understood that a chemical plant is not too far off from a large engine room in the large ships, with all the piping, pumps, tanks, and everything. So I was a little bit surprised when I got to learn about it in the university, that I was so familiar with it already from start.
And after that?
Yeah, I graduated as naval architect. I went for Norway, Norske Veritas, DNV. I had the opportunity to be in a trainee program there, so I went around in 3 different departments on the plan approval. So high speed, tank and bulk, and passenger vessels, and also have the possibility to go out and be a normal ship surveyor. I was posted in Marseille in France, ships in operation, and on Malta for new building, for the new Gozo ferries. They are not new any longer, but they are still in traffic. So that was part of my babies to do the inspection for new building.
But you never sailed, did you?
No, I did military service as a captain in the Green Barrows, doing very difficult navigations, 50 people on board. And so that part I have. So I know a little bit about it, especially in difficult navigational situations with equipment from the 50s. So it was way before the GPS or electronic navigation charts and all these kind of things. So I think it was a good lesson to do it, and you got confident in in how to operate a vessel in that type of conditions as well. But otherwise, no, I'm not a sailor. I have done some sailing competition in sailboats, but not as a sailor.
Okay, well, I think you're excused. Neither have I. I've never sailed. I'm not a mariner. And then you moved on to the Swedish Maritime Administration.
Yeah, actually, I had we got twins when we were living in Oslo, Norway, and we realized that we might need some support. So we moved back to Stockholm first, to the Swedish Defence Material Administration. So I worked for that agency or administration for 6 years. And for the Visby class corvette, it was a carbon sandwich structure, and also for other projects there. So I ended up as a head of ship technology in that. And from there on, I went to the Swedish Maritime Administration.
Doing what?
Swedish Maritime Administration, I started as head of ship technology as well, but from the regulation perspective. So I got the responsibility to develop rules, and as everyone knows, if you're talking about international shipping, it's IMO. So at a certain point, a little bit later in the career, I spent as most like 6 weeks in London every year from different committees. That was very interesting, and I would say also challenging with a fairly small flag that Swedish is due to the number of experts. So we have many areas with single expertise, just because we are so small. We couldn't afford to have the large staff. So it was a great job by the experts, especially how much influence we could got on the IMO development. And I think that is a great achievement, and they are doing a great job in IMO with respect to how many people they are in the system to try to push the regulation, both for environmental perspective, safety, but also for the business.
So what was on the table when you were there?
Yeah, it was like greenhouse gases. We have this energy index.
So nothing new under the sun.
No, it was early stages there. It was also alternative fuels coming up.
Mm-hmm.
We had goal-based standards. I was deeply involved myself in that. So yeah, a little bit around that.
Okay. Do you see things happening now that was on the horizon at that time?
Absolutely. I'm not following it every step, but I can see that the things that we started has actually got final approval and is enforced. So people can think that IMO work is slow, and I think it should be a little bit slow, but it's moving. It's always moving. And that is the most important thing.
So, and after Swedish Maritime Administration?
Yeah, after 9 years in different position, I ended up as a maritime director. So I have got the full responsibility for the flag in Sweden. I decided after 9 years of commuting, 180 kilometers one way, to move to work a little bit closer to home. I have kids and I was traveling a lot, so I moved for the Swedish Standard Institute.
That was interesting because I saw your move and I thought, what is he thinking?
Yeah, what was I thinking? It was actually, at that time, you could still find some ads in the newspapers.
Yeah,
so I took this yellow marker and just looked for words in the ads that appealed to me, got me energy. So I did this mark. It doesn't matter who the employer was or what position it was. So I just marked the words that give me energy, and from there I summarized and say, okay, what give me energy, and from that I started to search to try to do something which was outside the maritime area, and I found this. It was very interesting job to develop a new department for innovation and business relations with respect to standardization, and from the task was to open the eyes for the industry to see what can be benefit if you start to do the international standardization in the topic that you innovate on. And we got some really interesting projects ongoing, and now some years ago I can see the result in some area, but not all. Take some time, but what you gain if you're doing the international standard from the start, you have the full market access. If people see that it's according to, for instance, like an ISO standard, then they got confident that this technology is commonly understood and kind of approved by the global society. So you can have two different ways. Either you can go for the standardization or you can go for the patent. And the patent, you need to do all the work yourself and push the market and everything. If you go for the standard, you just open up the arena. But you can choose.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when I saw that you moved to that area, and I thought, well, that is really interesting.
Yeah, and ISO is very similar to IMO, I would say. Mm-hmm. You have a fully global organization, you have the headquarters, you have the committees, and you have the stakeholders in every country, and it's most of it is that you should be agreed. It's no voting, it's more... So it was the system, and also on the EU level, I was familiar with the European work in the Commission and so on. So the European standardization was similar to that. So I found that the systematics was very good, and I could just apply different topics to the same type of system.
Mm-hmm. And now,
actually, before now and then, I went for. Yeah, it was very, very interesting. I got contacted from headhunter that gave me the possibility to go for a position in Dubai. And first I was a little bit, what should you say, I thought this might not be true. Someone is trying to do some phishing or something, but after some research,
Candid camera,
yeah, but okay. Then I understood it was real. I found it, and I went there for interview, and okay. And that was a position for maritime strategy department in the government of Dubai to develop their maritime area. And that was a huge task. It was from the basic, to see the full system, the network that's needed. So it's from education, consultancy services, harbors, both on the commercial and leisure side. But also you need to have a lot of different disciplines to get the full system working. They were really good in some areas, like large container harbors and things, but there lack a lot of areas in between. So it was a task to identify where it most needed the effort. But it was a try to get more balanced income in the country, to get the maritime area growing.
It's interesting just that they discovered the maritime area as something important.
Yeah, I mean, the maritime...
Should be, but...
I mean, in Dubai, they have been trading since, long time ago. And that has been the key income, especially for Dubai in the Middle East. So the harbor there is so much tradition. They still have this wooden boats that's sailing and doing actually operation, and they are building new ones as well in wood. And I think it's a very nice tradition. And it's fascinating that they actually can make the business still with this old technology.
So what did you learn there?
I learned a lot. Yeah, the COVID was coming during the period. So the reason for I left was that it was a very hard lockdown compared to Sweden, where I normally live. And the kids, I wouldn't like to get the kids down to this hard lockdown when they have the freedom in Sweden. So we decided to quit. But during the time, I think the international business is very similar in every place in the world. So if you're working with international companies, it's easy, very easy. It's not according to in which country you actually work. So that is more a global thing. So it's more on the try to understand the system from the inside, how to get things done, in what way. And it took some time to understand. I was the only guy in this agency from west of Egypt. That was also different, most local, and they have a program to get more locals into the area. I think that is good. But then they need education, of course. So it's a long chain, so they're working hard to get it. But it was good experience on the global perspective, but also for my personal journey, of course.
And then what?
And then we are coming to where I'm at the moment. I quitted. I didn't have work. And it was a quite good thing. Before I moved to Dubai, I had a discussion with my kids and my wife, of course, should I move? Because I moved without them first. And my son said, what is the worst thing that can happen? And he said, okay, it's going to be a older a fat guy from Dubai, but what is that the problem? Coming home without any work. Yeah, okay, fine. I was not fat. I was fairly fit at that time. But anyway, I didn't have work when I was coming home. And I had some time to think what I would like to do as a next step. So I did this journey again. What gives me energy? And I have been following this company that I'm working for at the moment from the very, very early stage. So I knocked the door and said, I think you should go more into the commercial sector, commercial use of your products. And they were open for it. We started off very slow. I had a half time with time for a certain time and see. I mean, they are a very innovative startup, and I have my background from agencies, very slow and so on. So they were a little bit questioning if I was the right person, but we found each other. When I started in October 2020, it was just starting and had delivered some of the first serial production boats for the leisure market. So I started to do this project for passenger vessels. From that moment, we were 28 people in total at that time. Now we are over 200. At the end of the year, we are looking to be 400 to speed up the production, but also the R&D is growing. We are ahead. We are fully 100% electric hydrofoiling vessels, are still the only one in serial production in the world. But to keep that position, we need to invest in the R&D and production. We need to keep the cost down on the production to make it good as a business case, but also to speed up the transition. So I have been working now with 3 different projects. One is the passenger vessel that's going to operate in Stockholm in the normal waterborne public transport system. It's great. We are looking forward to it. It's under construction now. So we have the hull and bulkheads. So we will take it out of the mold to see the beauty from the outside this or next week. It's going to be a huge moment. After that, it's, of course, the launch and the first takeoff will be the greatest moment, I think, in the coming months.
And the name of the company?
The company's name is Candela.
Why?
Why? It's a good question. Now, I think everything's coming from the sun. Candela is an SI unit. And
what's an SI
unit? Yeah, like a meter or second or kilo or something like that. So this is with respect to the light. So it's one of a couple of different SI units for light, luminous and so on. So Candela. So that is actually, everything starts from the sun and we take it from there. So Candela, I mean, we started 2014. And when I said I have followed this company, they have a Facebook group for Friends of Candela. And when I got employed in 2020, they said, you should join this group. And then they realized, oh, you have joined this group just 7 days after it was created. So I've been following it. But Candela, we started 2014. It took 5 years of R&D and development to get the first serial production boat out of the door. So 5 years. I think the idea was more to have it like in 1 or 2 years, but it took 5. It's complicated to get. And the thing, hydrofoiling is not new. The oldest patent is what I have found is from 1870 something. So it's very old, the idea of it. And at that time, it was just because it was difficult to get power. Then you need to be a smart engineer to do something that you need less power. And hydrofoiling is that concept. So the oldest photo I have seen is from 1906 in Lago Maggiore in Italy. Then the peak period might be in the 50s or 60s from the Russian side. They have all the rivers. They have done a lot of hydrofoiling vessels, not in the same shape, but still more efficient than traditional vessels. So why are we doing it now and why we are leading this field in the world? It was the founder of the company actually had a summer house in the archipelago, and he needed to go to the neighbor island to get ice cream to his kids. And he realized that the cost of the fuel was like 10 times the cost of the ice cream. And then he started to think, how could it be like that? And he realized that boats are in the certain size and speed, they are like 15 times more energy consumption than a car. 15 times. How could it be like that? It's a huge number. And there he started, and it could be done in a different way. So he started the company with actually no knowledge about naval architecture or boating more than just a user of a pleasure boat. But now we have done all this development, and with this configuration that we have at the moment, we have this fully submerged hydrofoils. They are unstable. It's like you have balancing a pole in your hand at all time. Or more like a modern fighter jet. It's unstable if you don't have correction matters at all time. So what we have is a lot of sensors, both from the height sensors from the water level, but also different accelerometers and gyroscopes and so on. So we crunch the input from the sensors 100 times a second into what we call the flight control. So that is actually the brain of the boat. And the brain is where we have put most of the energy, of course, to make this algorithm. And that's put out the steering signals to the foils so they can balance the boat. And with that setting, it's super energy efficient. We can reduce the energy consumption on board, the energy you bring on board by 95% compared to a similar vessel in similar speed. So that number is so high that people don't really trust us. How can you say this number is just a sales number? But no, we can show every part of it. Of course, a large part is going from combustion engine to electric. There you gain a lot. But the rest is that we actually reduce the friction. The friction of the boat is compared to the area, wetted surface area. And when you take up the boat in the air, you reduce it dramatically. So it's just the foil itself is having some friction. And then, of course, we don't create any wake. And that's, if you see a wake, it's just a waste of energy. It's difficult to work in this company and still have a traditional boat yourself. It's a little bit hard to enjoy the ride, both the comfort, but also what you create. Just a waste of energy at all time.
To me, I mean, I've only seen pictures and videos. It looks a little bit science fiction.
Yeah, we have what we call the Candela smile. And that is when you're doing the takeoff themselves the first time. When you start as a normal boat, you have the noise from the water and everything. And then suddenly it's just silent and smooth. So it's like a flying carpet. Everyone got this smile. You can't really react it. It's very nice to look at it. It's a fortune to be able to take out possible customers and see how they enjoy it every time.
So when will it be in production? When can I buy one? And what will it cost?
Yeah, you can buy one now if you would like.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. No, I mean we have a product line for the commercial sector for 3 different vessels types. We have 2 on the smaller technology platform, 8.5 meters, 2 different water taxi, one fully enclosed for like Nordic, where it can rain or it can be a little bit warm or cold. And then we have a more open version for warmer climates. So the first boats of this is going to be delivered to the summer. So that is amazing to see the first boat actually. And for the passenger vessel, the 30 packs, what we call Candela P12, the first prototype is now in water in late spring. And the Stockholm project we will start to build this boat in September. And it should be fully approved in November. And so we have actually orders that is not official. So it's the customers deciding when it will be public. It will come. So that is nice. So we're setting up a serial production to keep down the cost now. And the price starts from 1.5 million euro for the 30 packs vessel.
And where is it produced?
It's produced outside Stockholm.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have it close by. We have built a lot of competence in the company, and we know that we can get cheaper labor somewhere else in the world, but we will stick to the competence that we have raised or educated and developed together. And that is very important for us in the start. And when we have speed up the production, I mean, the capacity now is up to 400 vessels a year for the smaller platform in this capacity. And we are now looking for the second one already because the order book is large from the leisure perspective, but it's starting to pick up on the commercial as well.
So if I buy one, where can I get it filled up? And with what?
I mean, if you stick to the passenger vessel, the P12, the Candela P12, if you put an order now, you can get it to the summer 24. We will keep down, to start with, we have like 6 months from starting point to deliver. And the goal is to have 3 months from we start the production to we actually can deliver the vessel. But of course, the lead time will be longer. And normally you need to set up an operation. So it's like 16 to 18 months. If you sign the contract, you can get the delivery, something around that.
So I'm buying a system then? Or what is the fuel? How do I get it?
Yeah, so if you look into the system that we are looking for, we are trying to keep down the cost for the full project, not only with respect of building cost, but also for the operation. Because normally when you operate, the investment is just a small part of the full cost over the years. So operation costs will grow. So that is what we are looking for. So we're starting from the key side. We will have the charging infrastructure is the same as you use for electric cars. So it should be no special cost. And you have plenty of suppliers with that type of CCS2 DC charging. So that is part of the concept. And then if you look for the site or the key that you need for this type of vessel, you don't need to have this large concrete investment to build new docks. You can have a floating dock. It's just maximum up to 30 passengers. The boat is like 9 tons, so it's not a huge, it's larger leisure craft. So you can actually have a very cheap infrastructure for the boat. And that will give the possibility to unlock the waterways in a different way. And then when you move on board, we have adjustable ramp. You don't need to have a fixed key height, so we can actually cope with the requirements for wheelchairs and so on in different heights. That have been a large part of the project. Most vessels are built to a certain key height, and then it's difficult to move around to other places. Then it's too low or too high. So we have, since we would like to do the serial production and keep down the cost, we need to have some more flexible system. And then also this vessel is operated only with one crew. So that will also keep down the cost, of course. And since it's a small vessel, in many countries you can actually you don't need to have the open sea experience to operate this vessel. It's a 12-meter vessel.
So how many people do I need on my crew?
One. One, only the captain.
Ah, I see.
So we have done all these evacuation drills on land, and we will, of course, do it on the real boat, because that will be, I think, the most critical part. But we designed the boat so it will be super easy to use only for one crew in the full operation. But then if we go more to the operation cost that I said, I mean, the full system needs to be super energy efficient. That is what our vessel does. We can reduce the energy cost by 80 to 95%, but also the service and maintenance for the propulsion unit, because we don't have a single drop of oil on board. No hydraulics, nothing in the propulsion system. So you don't need to do this maintenance and service. And that will also bring the full operation cost to a minimum. So it's a little bit too good business case because people are skeptic to start with, both because it's electric, then it's hydrofoiling, and then with the price tag of the operation or the cost that we can showcase is so low. So you need to do it line by line to understand how you actually can be that we can go to this shift for fossil-free operation with no wake to a better business case than you have today.
What support have you had? I mean, raising money, raising fund to start this up.
I mean, in the very early stage, it was a small amount from one of the innovation agencies for the leisure boat. For this passenger vessel, we have a good cooperation with a Swedish authority for state money. So we have like 900,000 euros. So it's not a lot of money, but that is what we got for this project. And the most important thing for us in this Stockholm project that I talked about is that we actually can put it into real traffic. So it's not just flying around. It's actually you're going to use the normal public transport system and the car that you're using. So it's integrated. And that is the region of Stockholm that opened up the arena for us. So they will do it because they will test new innovation, new technology. So if this is going to be a success, which it of course will be, then they will of course see, okay, how strict can we do the requirement in the upcoming procurements for new vessels? So that is their take on it. And I think that is a good way of doing it. Test it in real life, see what's working, what's not working. How tough requirements can you actually put? Because if you put too high requirements, you don't get any offer at all. No one can give you anything. And so the normal thing is that they put too low requirement on the environment, of the impact on the vessels. So they actually can get vessels. But if you look in many cities, you have, ships like 50 years old or something like that, or even older, still operating. And it needs to be a shift. And if you would like to go fast, then it's just the physics. You cannot push more water around because then you cannot use it by batteries, for instance. So then you need to do something. And then this flying mode is what you see from the physics side, absolutely. Slow going, fine. You can convert and do very nice slow going vessels, for sure.
But it takes some courage for people to believe in it and to put money where their mouth is.
Yes. We have got investors that see the potential, the global potential of this. We have got a good founding 1 year ago, so we actually can speed up. So we could go from the 60 staff to 200 that we have done this year, and new production facility and all this kind of thing. So with that in as up for the full company, then we actually can take this step now to enter the market. And we have got fantastic interest on this product. I made a calculation based on the ask from the board. Do we have any international stakeholders that interesting? And I ended up and summed it to 48% of the world countries have contacted us. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And from the beginning, I was alone. And now we are growing. So now we actually can take quite fast steps to roll out this globally.
So are there things in what you are doing that sort of commercial shipping can learn from and can take out of it and use in there now?
Yeah, I think it's if the founder was actually a naval architect, I don't think he had started this, because he had just seen the complex of the requirements and all these topics that actually is really challenged to do this step. But now when we have got this is a third generation of the technology. So we have that as a baseline. Now it's more how should we enter the market? How should we convince the authorities to get approval? Because this boat is not really fit into the existing regulations. So we have done a lot of risk assessments and done it FMEA down to the components. If this component fails, what will happen? How should we mitigate any type of risk? So compared to a traditional vessel, we have done a lot of more work just to be sure by ourselves, but also to prove for the maritime authorities that this vessel is safe, and for the operator is both safe but also reliable.
So if I am a ship owner today, what can I learn from you? Is it all about the algorithms or is it something else?
Yeah, you mean if you would like to copy our concept?
No. I can't really see a container ship flying around the world.
Yeah, but there are some if you just Google around for hydrofoil vessels, you will see that type of concept also. So you can make larger ships and still be more energy efficient than traditional ships, for sure. But the magnitude of the gain is going down with the size. So if you will go for like a 300 meter container ship, then of course it can still be on the upside, but it's not so much compared to a super energy efficient catamaran, for instance. So we have started in this smaller size vessel because there is it's incredible huge gain to do this. And what we see and when I talked about the system, it's to go down in size, then you will increase the possibility to higher the frequency for the passengers in the system, and that is what people would like. They would not wait for half an hour or 1 hour for the boat. They will have it every 10 minutes or something. So if you go down in size, you can increase the frequency as a system, but still be on the lower the costs. So what we have done a lot of calculations is we can replace these 150, 200 pax vessels with a few of our vessel and still have a positive business case. But you gain fossil-free, no wake, no sound, and the frequency. But for the larger vessel, it's more complicated. I mean, you can design a vessel that can fly in 2 knots if you would like, but then you got the maximum speed in 3 knots. So for heavy cargo, it will never happen. So it's more like an aircraft. So we designed it as more as an aircraft than a vessel with respect to weight and weight distribution. We have a certain takeoff weight for the payload. And that is exactly what you have on the aircraft industry as well. So for lighter goods, you can make it scalable for sure. But for the bulk and no, will never happen.
No, but there might be still things to learn from you.
It is. And I think it's also, I mean, on just going for electric, you reduce the maintenance cost so much. You reduce the systems on board, you reduce everything, both in the investment, but also in operation. So that part is for sure. But electric battery for seagoing vessels, it's maybe not the right way. But for shorter trips, absolutely. I mean, I think Norway has shown it for many years for the ferries and so on. Then people are talking about alternative fuels. I normally say when everyone is talking about this hydrogen, it's what's coming. But if you look in the societal perspective, it's just waste of energy because you lose so much in the transition. It's like 50 to 70% of the energy is waste. Go from electricity to hydrogen back to electricity. So if you can use batteries, that is much better for society.
Maybe I shouldn't ask you this question, but how can the shipping industry become more visible? I mean, your flying boats is...
Of course. I mean, we have an eye-catching product, and that will absolutely attract a lot of different people to it. And it's when you see it, first you don't think it's actually true. So sometime when people are doing the test ride with us, they don't really see it from the inside of the boat. They got the feeling it's very smooth, it's silent, but when they see it from the side, then everything falls down to them. It's fantastic because it doesn't look like a boat normally looks like. But the visibility for sure, I mean, flying around with this type of vessel will give attraction. And when we are doing it, everyone is picking up the mobile camera. So then doesn't matter where we are. And it's just normal people that's picking up the camera. So we got visibility from a normal social media from everyone outside the industry, I would say.
But you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. To attract
young people, next generation.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. I mean, from our side, it's we are struggling as many of parts of the industry to get female into it. But what we have is, since we are not fully marinized, we are not doing the much of the naval architecture ourselves, actually, because that is what people have done for many years. So we focus on flight control, sensors, propulsion units, and in these areas it's easier to get female workers. But still we're struggling, but it's easier than the pure maritime sector, I would say. But I believe also this will open up, this new technology step that we are taking, this leap that we are taking with the industry will attract people from outside the industry for sure.
I'm happy to hear that. Finally.
Finally. Yeah. Still to be proven, but that is my gut feeling, absolutely.
I will follow you. So, what are the biggest changes that you have seen during your career in the maritime industry?
The first, I was fairly young when I come up to the position as a maritime director. And in the first trips, it was just gray hairs, males, and they had brought the wives with them to the business trips. And I was really surprised. What is this? So I was a little bit more young and fresh. And of course, I didn't have my wife with me. She was working at home. But during these years, I just saw the main difference. You see the age was going down, but also the mix. And I think that is part of the change. But it's also, I think, the major thing in this 25 years that I've been working in this business is that actually this is a very old and traditional industry that now have opened the doors and would like to look into these new doors. What's inside. So some people have entered the door, but many people just open the door to look into it. So it's more to come, but it's a huge difference there. Otherwise, it was just keep the business running as it is, make some minor adjustment here and there. But now they are open. Many more people are open to test and try things. And we will see in the future what actually will be I think it will be many different technologies that will be on the market for different type of operation. Because now the design of a vessel is for North Atlantic in the winter. It maybe never operate there. So it's too much steel into it, it's too heavy, it's too much robustness that you actually, if you operate in another area. So open up for change of the regulation, of course, but also of the mindset. Just open the doors. That is, I think, the major shift during these times.
I agree with you. And it's for us to pinpoint the ones who want to change and who are curious to see what the future is, I think. So what's the best of being where you are now?
I think from personal view, I can combine all my experience into this position. I have done all the leisure boating myself in the full life. I have been on the classification side. I have been on the maritime authority side. I'm on the yard side. So it's actually, I'm missing a little bit of the operation side in my own experience, but I have at least been driving around in the military service for boats. But so to combine, and also the international standard perspective. So I can combine all my experience into this position to develop a new, I will say this hopefully when we look back in like 10 years time, this was the starting point. And we will not be the only company in the world for sure. I mean, there are a lot of people that are trying and coming. Some have a prototype that's working, but it's different to have a prototype to serial production. So, and I think it's good to get the competition. And that will showcase that more people believe that this is the next step. I hope with 10 years from now that it's flying around a lot of electric vessels, not only in Europe and US, but also in the rest of the world.
I hope so too. Thank you, Erik. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Erik. You're really doing something exciting, and you're a true change agent, and I love it. I'm convinced that the listeners of this episode will also have that Candela smile on their faces once they have watched the video of Candela. Therefore, I will put a link in the show notes so everyone can have a look. Speaking of videos, makes me think about photos. Can you please send me a picture of yourself listening to the Shipping Podcast? I want to know what you are doing whilst listening. And I would like to show it to the most loyal listeners who subscribe to my newsletter. Please send me your photo to hello@shippingpodcast.com. And if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, it's easy. Just go to the website shippingpodcast.com and sign up. I will leave you with that call to action and say what I always say. Until the next time, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a Shipping Podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.